YouTube channel. Today is Saturday and we are going to have pizza night at our house. So I figured I'd pop on here and kind of show you how we make our pizza crusts. And this recipe is enough for myself, my husband, and my two smaller children that eat like larger children. I also kind of incorporate some veggies on the side, that type of thing, and maybe a salad. So to start off the recipe, I have 1 cup of lukewarm water. So it's 75 degrees, but it's about the temperature of whatever room you're in. I use filtered water just because that's what we drink, so that's what I use. Some people say that if you're in a bigger city, chlorine can affect the yeast. I don't know if it can or not. Anyways, if you make the water too hot, it will scald the yeast and it won't rise. So just make it so I would go cooler than hotter, because cooler water will not affect the yeast in that way. So for 1 packet of yeast, you can use 2 1/4 teaspoons of bulk yeast or loose yeast. I just prefer using this for different recipes. It's easier because you don't have to measure out, get the little packets and shake them out and then measure it from there. So I buy the Bob's Red Mill brand. It's in the refrigerated section at my store. So, and then I just put it in a jar for easier use. So I put the yeast in the warm water. I have a whisk and I'll whisk it together. This recipe also calls for sugar. It is important to use sugar when you're using yeast. It does feed the yeast. So yeast thrives on sugar. And so I use a tablespoon of sugar in my yeast and go ahead and just let this set while you're working on the rest of the recipe. The next thing I usually do, I already did this, but I turn the light on in my oven because this is where I'm going to be proofing my dough, so letting it rise. If you turn the oven light on, it keeps it a nice warm temperature in your oven. You can use dryer. Someone told me they use the inside of their dryer. They just turn it on and then set it in there. I don't know about that. But you can use whatever you choose. In the summer, I put it outside when it's warm and just put like a tea towel over it, which I do anyways in the oven. So, and it proofs super fast in the summer, which is nice. So you're gonna set this aside until it gets foamy on the top, then it's ready to incorporate. While this is waiting, I usually just add the rest of my ingredients. So this recipe starts out with 2 cups of flour. I'm gonna use 1 cup of all-purpose and 1 cup of whole wheat. Again, I still use the organic Bob's Red Mill brand, so that is what I am using for this recipe. Oh, that's 3/4 of a cup. So. I'm also using my KitchenAid mixer, so you don't have to use that if you don't have one. You can do this by hand, perfectly fine. Don't put these away yet though, because you might need to add a little bit of flour to your recipe as you go. I'm gonna pour this in, then I'm gonna let my dog in real quick. It is cold and snowy out, and he doesn't want him to stay up there. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab him. Okay, so I went ahead and added a cup of each of the yeast, or each of the flours, the all-purpose and the whole wheat. Again, I use Bob's Red Mill. They have a great organic selection also, which I love. I'm going to use a teaspoon of salt. Salt also is a killer of yeast, so when you use it, you want to make sure to incorporate it with the flour so it doesn't, the water mixture doesn't just hit the salt and it will kill it. So I just mix mine and then it just gets all incorporated and I don't worry about it. So yeah, so you just wait a few minutes on the yeast. Mine's actually starting to get foamy. It comes up quick, especially if you put that sugar in. I'll come over and show you what it looks like. Oh, can't really see it. So yeah, that's what it looks like with the foam on it. So I'm gonna test what the yeast mixture looks like when it starts to get foamy on the top, just like I said. You can kind of see it from the side. And then I am just going to add it to our flour mixture. Just looks like that. And go ahead and flip your mixer on. I'm going to get a spatula and scrape out the extra sugar that's at the bottom of that cup, and go ahead and start mixing your dough. So I don't have like a scraping capability with mine, so I just go through every once in a while and use the hook to kind of get the sides of the bowl, move it around a little bit so it's not just mixing in the same spots, and then give it another whirl. It seems like the perfect ratio, the 2 cups of flour. If yours seems to be wet, you can just add a little bit more flour, but this seems to be the perfect ratio. Once it starts to come together and form a little bit of a ball, I just add a couple, maybe 1.5 teaspoons, maybe 2 teaspoons of oil. Again, you don't have to do this step if you are a no oil type of person. It will come out fine. This just makes it come out a little crispier, in my opinion, which I like, and it helps it when you're rising it not stick to the sides of the bowl. So I'm going to keep kneading it for a few more minutes, and then I am going to throw it in the oven. So here is my finished kneaded dough. It is still sticky. As you can see, it comes up whenever I touch it, and it sticks to my finger a little bit. So that is how I personally like it when I let it rise. I feel like it rises a little bit faster, so I will keep my flours out for when I'm kneading it. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of oil around the bowl, and then I will kind of roll it around in the oil and then set it in the oven. All right, there's the dough, and I'm going to just cover it with a tea towel and put it in the oven for rising. It takes about, I would say, a good 30 to 45 minutes for rising, and we'll just leave it there, and we'll see you in a little while. Rise, little dough. So I just pulled my dough out of the oven, and it has risen, doubled its size, so I'm just going to go ahead, oops, sorry, my camera is not focused, and push it down, and then I am going to move it over to my counter to start kneading it. I prepared my pizza plates. Again, I use the Pampered Chef ones. I really like those, the personal little one, and then the original. So I'm going to go ahead and flour my surface and then dump this out onto it. Also, I wanted to add, I know a lot of people use, just stretch their dough over their, for their pizza, and that is a great option too. I just don't prefer doing that, so I use a rolling pin. Excuse that craziness. Okay, so I just put the dough back in the oven to rise a second time. It takes about, you can just leave it in there however long you have time for. It's 5:30 now. We usually eat around 6, so probably won't be too long, maybe 15 minutes, and then I will kind of stab it with a fork. These are the toppings that we're going to have: mushrooms, peppers, some cilantro, pineapple, onions, banana peppers, and jalapenos. I know it's kind of unique, but that's just what we like. So we're going to have that on our pizzas. After they rise, I also preheated the oven to 450.